And welcome to Big Talk Small Machines Getting Bigger by the Day. Uh, this episode is 109 of the Mini PC Show with me, Flying Rich, and my best friend in the whole wide world, Door to Door Geek, and my bird, who's chiming in now that I'm talking. And this episode is brought to you by the letter K. And Tim L., one of our favorite Patreon people. Tim, you know who you are. Door, how the heck are you? I miss you, buddy. You look different.
Well, I'll say it's been well over a month, and I have no problem in saying I am the reason why, and it's partially because I've been in lots of pain. Got MRI'd on my right shoulder. Orthopedist told me to stop physical therapy. You need surgery right away, in air quotes. 2 days later, they shut down the state of Maryland. So my surgery's scheduled for July 9th.
But wait a second. Let's just clear this up right now. We've got to realize that you being in pain is non-essential surgery.
Yeah. Because I'm not
That
dying.
wasn't essential.
Well, but the kicker is, since about March, my left shoulder has been the shoulder that's been killing me. The shoulder that needs the surgery is the right shoulder. So, I'm getting by. I'm making do. The later in the day, the more it seems to hurt. We always record podcast late at night when the kids are asleep. The wife is in bed, hopefully, because I always say when the kids are up and the wife is up, Door to Door Geek doesn't exist. Family first, career first, friends first, podcasting when I have time for it.
Yep. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I've had my own challenges over the last 6 weeks. It just so everybody knows, on a whole, and let me first flip this how I was going to say it. I have a lot of sympathy for people out there that are out of work. I know what it's like to be out of work for a long period of time, and there are no good days. The only solace that I took in pulling myself up by my bootstraps on those lean periods was that you're a day closer to getting a job. Every day you're out of work is a day closer. And personally, I made it my job 8 hours every day to look for a job. So that 9 to 5, I was behind a desk figuring a way to look for a job. But uh, yeah, I actually working remote is kicking ass. I'm loving it. I'm doing great gardening and stuff like that. So I'm in tinkering, and I got the 3D printer running. So I'm crazy happy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll say I'm not trying to be insensitive because I know there are plenty of people out of work, plenty of people I know who are out of work. With that stated, we clearly have the richest poor people in the history of the world. With that stated,
correct. Yeah.
I don't think this is. I hope that this country goes down in the record books as being the country that gives the most. The example I use is I've given plenty of straight cash over the past 6 weeks to local people I know who are out of work because that's what Americans, I think, are supposed to do. But I also encourage them right now, and I didn't hear this quote literally, Rich, until today, but supposedly this is an old quote from Old Wall Street. And it's the saying goes something in the way of, it's time to invest when there's blood in the streets. And here's the reason why. The stock market is not a relation of what's happening. The stock market is a reflection of the aspirational future. Okay. And the one thing we all know is it's going to get better. So right now, if you have money, it's the time to invest. It's not time to draw back. If you draw your money back, you're completely missing everything. It's a time to invest. And if you don't have the money or you don't have work, now is the time to invest in yourself. Because if you don't have a job, you have plenty of time on your hands. And again, not trying to be insensitive. If you do not have a job and you do not have income and you do not have food and you do not have a way to buy milk or whatever, door geek at Podnutz.com. I'll help you out. Other people help you out too. All you gotta do is ask for it. This is America. We, in my humble opinion, help each other to the nth degree compared to any other country. Pain is a part of a lot of people's lives right now. Mine just happens to be physical.
Yep, I hear you, buddy. So, can we talk about the not quite elephant in the room?
Yeah.
So, I ordered from Connecticut and it was supposed to be here today, but I guess somehow the Border Patrol was worried that it had COVID or something like that. And Connecticut is Canna, as in Canada, where these odd looking brown birds come from. And so it'll be here tomorrow. So I was hoping I had something to talk about. But realistically, what I wanted to discuss, 8 gigs with that CPU and GPU is great if you're running virtual machines or Docker containers or doing something where you're going to use a lot of RAM disk or caching things in RAM. But basically, the Pi 4 I think the Pi 4 to 4 gig configuration is an ideal matchup. I think the Pi 4 and the 8 gig, and don't get me wrong, I ordered 2. The Pi 4 in the 8 gig configuration is now CPU and GPU limited. It does not have, other than corner case issues where, like I said, you're using a lot of RAM with either Docker or some sort of virtual machine setup. It is now a CPU GPU limited device.
Yeah, well, I mean, something always has to be the bottleneck. You know what I mean? The Buffalo theory, Cliff Clavin. Okay, if you're too young to know who Cliff Clavin is, hit pause and watch about a decade of the TV show Cheers. Cliff Clavin once said the Buffalo theory. The Buffalo theory is the entire herd will only ever run as fast as the slowest buffalo to protect it, and because it knows it's best when it has the greatest numbers. Thus, when the slowest buffalo is killed off, the entire herd speeds up. AKA, even in nature, there's always a bottleneck. And by the way, Cliff Clavin said that's why when he drinks beer, he's smarter, because beer kills the slowest brain cells. Okay, now back to computing. There's always a bottleneck. And me and Brian yesterday had a phone call for about like an hour, and where we talked.
Whoa, wait a second. Hold on. Stop the presses here. You have a phone?
I have a phone, but I called him on my desktop because of my shoulder. I can't hold the phone to my face for more than 30 seconds without it really hurting.
Because I want everybody in the audience to know. Dor, how long have we known each other?
My sense of time is really bad, Rich. At least 8 years?
Do you know I don't have Dor's phone number?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, when I called Brian, it was from a Montana area code. And I don't live in Montana because it was from my computer. And one of the things we talked about was, well, there's always going to be a bottleneck, and it's like picking your poison. What do you want to be your bottleneck? So you have to then take another step back, ask another 20 questions and say, what is your use case? I believe traditional computing, okay, RAM helps a couple things. It helps games, because loading a game always goes into RAM, because RAM actually doesn't exist. RAM is just faster, more volatile hard drive. That's all RAM actually is. So I always said it's always good for games, it's always good for graphics, and it's always good for virtual machines. And that is really sexy hardware you got there, Rich.
Yeah, I'm kind of cheating. The top one is a Rock, not the Rock Pro 64, but the Rock Chip 64. That's it. My other Pi 4 is doing something at the moment.
Gotcha. Well, the host in a cluster, to me, I don't want to say needs to be the weakest. It needs to be the most stable. But like, I heard multiple reviewers, and I classify them as reviewers, which should instantaneously lower their credibility level. I heard multiple reviewers say, Raspberry Pi, 8 gigs of RAM, you see no benefit in games.
I've seen that also, and I'm like,
I don't think that's. I could be wrong. I have been wrong a lot in my life, and if you don't believe me, I'll just
Did you
introduce you
say
to my
in your
wife.
wife or your life? Because you said in
Both,
my wife.
both. So here's the thing: who is this 8 gig thing designed for? But then let's take another step back. Why, as a company, would you? Now, I do also believe they killed the 1 gig version, which to me is just completely taking the entire third world and throwing it out the balcony. Take the entire educational section and just throwing it into the gutter, kind of thing.
Are they selling the 2 gig version for the 1 gig price right now?
I was going to get there, Rich, but yes, they did lower the price of the 2 gig version down to $35, which helps.
So they welcome back the third world.
They did, but here's the whole thing. What benefit is the 8 gig model? And I had to think this. I have to think I am ignorant. I am blind. I am unknowing to the actual plans of the Raspberry Pi Foundation, because I don't know what could require them to prioritize, I'm using these words carefully, prioritize the RAM as being the next upgrade to go. Because, Rich, how many other things could they have upgraded?
Well, okay, so let's take a look right here. Let's see, am I pointing? So if you can see the top board has a full-size HDMI port. The bottom 3 boards are Pi 4s, and they have these micro HDMI ports that totally suck because nobody on the planet uses micro HDMI for anything. So if they did put 2 HDMI ports on, full size, that'd be a big deal. If they did upgrade the GPU so that you could do 2 60 frame per second 1080p streams, that would be a big deal. If they went to a quad-core processor, that would be a big deal. If they bumped up the clock rate, that would be a big deal.
Yep. If they would have gotten rid of all USB 2.0 and went for USB 3.0, that would have been a big deal.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, good man, because I didn't mention that. Because other boards, I mean, I could grab my o-droid N2, and o-droid came out with, what was their other board recently?
There's the Rock 64, and there is the Rock Pro 64, and I'm trying to remember.
Because o-droid has a board, I think
the
it's another
N2
4 gig.
Maybe?
Is it the N2? And, well, not the N2, it's I gotta go to Ameridroid and look.
Well, okay, they could have gave us 4 USB 3 ports. They could have given us dual physical NICs, gig NICs. They could have given us eMMC storage, which is clearly faster, more stable, less volatile, more reliable than SD cards. They could have given us an NVMe port on the bottom of the drive. They could have done a lot of other things, is my logic. So for them to prioritize RAM honestly tells me the only true thing, the only true thing that really benefits from RAM, in my opinion, is virtual machines, because virtual machines cannot share RAM. I know of ballooning and all that kind of stuff, but RAM needs to be exclusively allocated for. Everything else on these mini computers can be shared. So I have to believe them prioritizing the 8 gig thing was either a cost benefit analysis decision, or they knew virtual machines would be like a game-changing type of change they could make.
So with VMware 7.0 that just came out, was it a month ago? The industry, more than a rumor, was that there was going to be a ARM-based fling that came out along with it. And so far, I haven't seen the ARM-based fling.
Well, the 2 people I know who went to the last 2 VMware Cloud, what are they called? The
VMworld.
VMworld. They said the buzz about Raspberry Pi was very prevalent, and like it's going to happen in air quotes any day now, kind of thing. And I don't understand what the hesitation is for. I know, I know Azure is making money hand over fist. EC2 is making money hand over fist. Google Compute is trying really hard to be a real boy. I don't understand why ARM-based server things like this have not just taken completely off by now. I'm happy to see the Raspberry Pi Foundation, the Broadcom-owned initiative called the Raspberry Pi Foundation. I'm happy to see them doing advancements. But again, I question, what were they thinking? I don't claim I need to understand everything, but I would like to understand some stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And in the typical fashion, all of the normal, in air quotes, because let me tell you something, none of them are normal. All of the normal people released plenty of videos and plenty of reviews and plenty of articles showing the differences between the Raspberry Pi 4 4 gig and 8 gig model. There were slight differences on the board itself. All it really was with circuits moving very minutely was really the only physical change. Every old case will continue to work, is the good thing. The only guy I knew who actually drilled into actual operating system performance benchmarks and 8 gig needs was ETA Prime, and ETA Prime's opinion was there's no benefit to anybody right now upgrading to the 8 gig model, but caveat, if you do open 30 tabs, if you do open 4K GIMP files, and you do expect a very desktop-like experience, you have to get the 8 gig model. But if you're buying a brand new one right now today, he said you should buy the 8 gig model only because it will give you like the longest lifespan of any Raspberry Pi. And that I utterly agree with him with.
So yeah, he talked about the idea of future-proofing, and okay.
Yeah, and there will be a link in the notes to a YouTube video of ETA Primes where he's giving away 7 items. He's going to give them away 7 days from today, I believe. Today being Wednesday, June the 3rd. So I believe it's June the 10th is when he's going to give them away. He's giving away 7 items. Among them, he is giving away 2 Raspberry Pi 4 8 gig boards. And it's basically called SBC and Handheld Giveaway 450K subscriber giveaway, Pi 4 8 gig, Retro Compute, Lat Panda, and more. And I'll say it like this: a huge amount of the people on YouTube I will go out of my way to not support because I believe they are really scummy, manipulative, clickbait kind of people.
Don't hold back, door. Tell us how you really feel.
I really do honestly believe ETA Prime and guys like Explaining Computers are not that kind of people. I really do believe they are the kind of people that really enjoy learning, sharing, and giving things away. So if you definitely want to show somebody on YouTube some love, ETA Prime, I think, is a really good guy.
I'm just jealous of his sub numbers.
You can be. It took him years. That was hard work. Because like one of the things I'll say is, if you take a close look at his hands of ETA Prime, I don't know what his job is, but I tell you right now, his job is utterly manual. I don't know if he like replaces tires on Mack trucks,
here again. Today, I
or
figured
he's
I'd
like
go ahead and do a little bit of a
or like a
giveaway.
high-end diesel mechanic. But those hands have seen some serious manual labor. I mean,
remember
my
when I
hands
had
are
about
like
100
baby's
subscribers,
butts
never
compared to
thinking I would
his.
break 200.
Dude, I've actually had issues
And I wanna-
with my hands because my skin is getting too frickin' soft. It's really bad.
Well, I don't know if it was Tracy Holtz. I can't remember whose hand I shook. And he just like looked at me and he said, "Well, I guess you never worked an honest day in your life." Damn, that got really serious really fast.
Well, it actually, so two things are going on in my life, or I'm just recovering from. I had a skin issue in my hands for like 2 years, and but that has left my skin very soft and thin. So I go to the range and load magazines. I got to wear gloves. But okay, so the o-droid I was thinking about was the o-droid C4, which is a 4 gig version, I believe, of the o-droid C2. I don't know if the CPU is upgraded, but I believe if you look at it, so this is a $55 4 gig board, and I believe it has 4 USB 3.0 ports. And because I have so many tabs opened on my MacBook Pro, it is crawling out of snail space.
Well, my question is okay, I'm sorry, Rich. I also had a phone call with somebody else about 2 months ago now, and it was Joe Heck. Joe Heck is the mastermind behind the single board computing show that unfortunately only had 1 episode, and I can just tell people this right now. If he would have had 10 episodes, it would have taken me 1,000 episodes to convey as much intelligence as he would have on 10 episodes. I had a conversation with him where he was very openly complaining about the o-droid C2 and a quality issue where multiple people were complaining about plugging USB devices into it and having the board basically kill the device. And I never heard of such a thing.
So it's a power issue, I assume.
That's what I gathered. The 4 wires coming out of the USB port, one of them is power, the other one is ground. So it's either the power or the ground. One of them was not, in air quotes, acting right. And I never heard of such a thing. My o-droid C2 ran rock solid 2 straight years as a home theater computer, never had to reboot, never had to do anything. Everything worked just fine. And I will say it like this. I am not going to lie whatsoever. I really came close to pulling the trigger on this o-droid C4 4 gigabyte model because of the stability I experienced with the C2, because it had 4 USB 3.0. Now, I would literally only ever use probably 2 of them, okay? I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to kid myself. I'm not going to, overstate anything. This to me just seemed like a really nice, solid board. And then I had the phone call with Joe Heck, and I'm like mildly afraid of the board is what I'll say. It is an RK3399, but it is a really good ARM processor. I love the fact that the board's red. I'm not going to lie. You have eMMC, you have SD, you have 4 gigs of RAM. It seems to me like this is a really competent board, completely fanless, by the way, which honestly is one of the things I love. I love to love fanless boards. $50 to me seems like a really fair price.
Yes, I think 4 gigs of RAM, 4 USB 3.0 ports, full-size HDMI. And again, don't get me wrong, as much as I'm quipping about HDMI ports and sizes, pretty much all of my single board computers are headless. Yeah, I think it's a great thing. I mean, it would definitely be a great cluster type machine. If you're doing some sort of cluster compute. Boy, you see, now I'm talking myself into that.
Trust me, and I almost am too, but now that we have this board that came out, we have the Raspberry Pi board coming out. I have my Rock 64 running my Nextcloud. To be honest, it's running my Nextcloud, I'm not going to say perfectly, but pretty dang good. I have my Raspberry Pi 4 with 4 gigs of RAM running Raspbian X, I believe it's called, which is a new distro spin, and it's running really good. So I'm back in that mode of questioning what the hell would I do with this board if I buy it. And I am in the camp where you're at, where now I'm thinking I'm not going to buy one. If you want to do an actual active cluster, you really need 3 boards in the EM equation. One of the boards is simply just the host controller, and then the other boards are the actual cluster. So
So
the
you could
logic
always
is
have a lesser board as a controller. You could have
right,
a legacy hardware to do that.
right, and that was my thought exactly. I could use the classic, in air quotes, Raspberry Pi 4 as the main controller, and then get two of these other boards and have them as the actual clustering operating system. And to be honest, I would, me being me, I would probably find more fun things to do with the o-droid C4 than the Raspberry Pi 8 gig. And it's only because of the ecosystem that's around it, where the Raspberry Pi, you have that dedicated professional grade developer. With the o-droid, you get stuff like Armbian type distros that are tweaked like really, really good. So I think I would probably try to do it with the o-droids.
So I actually ran into all right, so first with all o-droids, tell me if I'm wrong, Dor, on this. All o-droids do not come with any wireless networking, so no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi. Am I right on that?
They come, I'll say this, more enterprise ready type of, and that's the way I describe it, where they come much more standards based, like all USB 3.0 ports, no 3.2, full HDMI, no micro, no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi, because to be quite honest, onboard Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, one, will never be as good as a dongle, two, always adds to the price, three, will never perform as good as dedicated hardware.
Yeah, right. So that's why, I mean, heck, I don't know all the compatibility information, but $10 typically you can get a combo Wi-Fi Bluetooth antenna dongle, with an actual antenna on it that's going to perform better than something that doesn't have an antenna. So yeah, I do like the bang for the buck that you get with the o-droid. I like what they deliver, and now being that I have precisely one o-droid N2 and I'm a big fan of it, haven't used it enough, and I've used the heck out of my o-droid XU4. And I've got the XU4 with a fan on it, and I've got hanging over it another 100 millimeter fan. So even if the cooling isn't active on the SBC, there is cooling around it. And I found that now mine could be, not on the standard deviation. It could be like a corner case board. Oftentimes, I find that my board, if I log into it when I'm doing something, like because it's my Plex server, it does a whole bunch of things, that it's actually pretty damn hot. It's saying this is reducing the life. I was just figuring that the temperature monitoring is incorrect. That either the Armbian software is not reading the temperature right. I don't know. I could have a dud board. Logically, in my mind, there's no reason for that thing to run hot. But regardless of that, the wife and I sat down to watch a movie. It'd play for a few seconds and then buffer. Play for a few seconds and then buffer. So all right, I'm done with that. And it was actually a movie we wanted to watch. It wasn't something we wanted. I downloaded earlier. So what I did is I have a Nook VMware lab, and I just loaded Plex onto the Nook. I SSH'd the movie over, played fine. So with all of that said, I think I am going to put into service my o-droid N2 as my new Plex server, because the o-droid XU4, I think, is, at its limits.
Yeah, I'll say me, you, and Brian, and a couple other people I know have experienced the flammability we call orange pie. And I'm not talking bad about it. What I'm saying is, if you take a look at the price, if you take a look at the performance, and you take a look at the temperature, there's a three-way thing going on, kind of like the project management triangle in America. There are three things in the project management triangle you as a consumer can only pick to optimize two of them. There's price, there's speed, and there's quality. If you're paying a low price and it's high quality, it's going to take forever. If you want something quick and it's going to be cheap, it's going to be really bad quality. Okay. I feel like the same kind of thing when it comes to computing and with that. So yes, I agree. Everything on the face of the planet runs hotter than a Raspberry Pi. With that stated, I kind of believe o-droids, for the most part, will run just fine with doing things. And I will say, I ran my XU4 with the fan. It gets hot. Hardwired into my network. I've streamed, I know, 1080p content to one device that was wireless, and it ran fine. It took 30 seconds for it to start to stream, but then once it started to stream, it ran fine. I watched a full movie. I will say Plex is weird in the sense of you could take the same movie, save it in 4 different formats, okay? Stream it 4 different formats, you'll see 4 different results. It all comes down to processor optimization and format optimization on the Plex side. I'll say I don't want to blame Plex outright. Obviously, they have some optimization tweaks to do to make things better on these kind of computers with all formats. I do believe I kind of got a little bit lucky with my videos that I have downloaded. Since then, I will admit I have my Plex switched over running on my desktop computer only because that is the drive right now that has the 2 terabyte drive connected to it for now. But I did literally just get another 2 terabyte drive in the mail that I gotta put into use, is what I'll say. My Plex is running on the same server as my streaming server that's streaming this to the internet and doing the backup recording and running my Plex server and running my Google Drive synchronization tool. And it's running an operating system that's now 6 years old. So I really need to upgrade that.
Yeah, so just generally, I am a big fan of the o-droid. And like I've said 3 or 4 times before, I might be corner case, although my o-droid HC1 does seem to run hot also. And again, I'm not sure if it's just listing it as hot and it really isn't, because it's got a massive freaking heat sink on it. There's no way that thing should be heating up.
Well, mine, I'll say this, it always ran warmer, but it always said it had like another 15 degrees centigrade to go before it was in a danger zone. So I felt comfortable running it. I'll say my o-droid H2, which is an Intel based single board computer, never ran hot. I would do anything, and I could in my life, and I could never get that thing to run hot, but it was also an Intel Celeron, which by default has less potency to it.
All the Chromebooks are Celerons, right?
No. There are plenty of Chromebooks that are i3 and i5s, and I do believe there's at least 2 or 3 i7s out there. Samsung did release at least 2 or 3 ARM-based Chromebooks.
Huh, because I got to look, I peeled all my stickers off, so I don't know what my Acer is.
Well, most Chromebooks between 200 and 350 are going to be Celeron based as well. And that's one of the weird things. Yeah. So now the Raspberry Pi, the high-end Raspberry Pi, will have more RAM than 99% of Chromebooks that exist.
That is true. Yeah.
That's weird.
Realistically, my MacBook Pro has 16 gigs of RAM. Now, this is a 2002. But laptops, how many 32 gig of RAM laptops are there out there? Is that the standard or no?
I'm not going to say it's the standard because people are cheap. I do believe the huge majority of laptops being sold today have between 4 and 8 gigs of RAM. When you start to get into enterprise grade or developer grade is when you start to get to 16 to 32. I know a couple years ago, it was difficult to get 32. Now there's a huge amount of enterprise grade, aluminum body grade laptops where you can get 32, but I haven't seen, I believe, any with 64 yet.
Yeah, and just realistically, the way I'm thinking about it is, I don't think I want a laptop with much more capability than a Chromebook.
Yeah.
Typically, I don't edit mobile. The only thing I can't do is edit videos, and typically I don't edit on the road. So pretty much a Chromebook fits whatever I need to do.
It does with me, but I always want a portable computing device that can be my main rig in an emergency type situation. And that's what I always think. And that's why I always want to have that i7 16 gig of RAM portable device. Realistically, I almost never utilize its potential.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. Other than browser tabs killing my CPU, that's about it.
Yeah. One of the other pieces of news in the Raspberry Pi world was the kind of thing that kind of upset me. Back in the day, we had terms for like soldiers who suffered psychiatric damage. And we used to call it things like shell shock. Then we called it battle fatigue. Then, the name kept changing and changing and changing. And I believe, like now the late George Carlin believed, part of the name changing was to try to lighten it, to try to make it less like real.
To get the stigma off it.
Yeah. To like lighten the mood. Post-traumatic stress disorder. The more syllables it is, the less harsh it is. Raspberry Pi Foundation renamed Raspbian OS to Raspberry Pi OS. I don't like Debian not getting the credit for being, 99% of the code that's in their operating system, doing all of the heavy lifting to make everything function, and then to be demoted into being not even good enough to be in their name of their distribution. So that's the kind of change I really don't like.
Yeah, I actually didn't think about that. And it's funny because I talked to like VMware guys. I'm like, oh, you mean SUSE Linux? They're like, no, we're Photon OS now. We're not SUSE based.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. I get that the Raspberry Pi Foundation wants to do their own stamp on it. But you already did. It's Raspbian, okay? And then number two, if you really want to do your own spin, simply download, in air quotes, the ASCII text called Linux from scratch and build your own damn distribution. If, you're making as much money as I'm pretty sure you're making, and then stop piggybacking off of Debian and not giving them, as far as I know, a penny, nor any direct support. Yes, you're supplying upstream code to them. Congratulations, golf clap. Oh, good, right. Maybe you could either do more or just do it yourself. Is my logic. One computer I absolutely wanted to highlight, and the only reason I wanted to highlight it, Rich, because I have very mixed feelings about it. Okay, it was line, which makes no sense, 69 in the notes.
It can't be line 69.
Well, I tried to invite you, so in your email you should have a link. Yeah, you should have a link that I just added you to like a half hour ago. Somehow the spreadsheet's got verklempt is the word I'll use. I'll fix it after the show. But it's called Fireflies Station 1, which I'll say this. I like the name Station. I like the name Firefly. I don't know if I like this product though, okay? Fireflies RK33.99. Oh, I like when I say 33.99. It just rolls off the tongue. Fireflies RK33.99 based mini PC can boot Ubuntu, Android, and Media Savvy Station OS. And I had to say that slow because I kept thinking I was going to mess it up. This really is a true small form factor. It's maybe the size of a Raspberry Pi and a half, or maybe two Raspberry Pis. In the box, you get a USB type A to type C port, a antenna, dedicated antenna, more than you get with the Raspberry Pi. You get a power brick, you get a IR remote, you get an HDMI cable, more than you get with a Raspberry Pi. You get a L bracket, which is actually just an Allen wrench, and you get the 4 little comfy bumpers you can put on the bottom. The whole thing looks like a heat sink, is one thing I'll say, which I like a lot, because the RK33 runs a little bit hot. And it basically is a micro desktop, is the best way I can put it. I like the idea of this a lot. I don't like the fact that it starts out as $129 for the low end model, but if you go to the product page at shop.t.firefly.com, the model you're presented with has 128 gig eMMC, so it's $179. I want ARM computers to become popular. I want ARM computers to disrupt. I want ARM computers to, take over the world, because Intel is proven to be an incredibly insecure base of hardware. But I don't know if this is the one that's going to do it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get the spreadsheet up, but I don't mind shelling out the money, but you got to bring the goods. So in my mind, $175. That's when I shop on eBay for some older Nook.
Well, and I'll say it like this: I have no problem with giving somebody up front if it comes with, dare I say, some type of social contract of either A, they're giving a certain percentage of money back to Android developers, Ubuntu developers, the XK multimedia desktop like thing for home theater computers, if they're giving money back to them, or if they're just giving money back to somebody doing some actual development work, or you're guaranteeing me certain amounts of upgrades of time on operating systems, like 6 years of upgrades or something. I'm not seeing any of that in their interface. What I'm seeing is the typical, and I'm sorry if this sounds racist, the typical Chinese AliExpress Banggood huge image artwork displaying how its high definition display can do this, the 6-core processor can do that, without getting into the actual meat and potatoes of what you're actually getting for this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of if that's what it smells like, I'm sure that's what it is, and I'd look to stay away from that.
Well, I'm not going to pull out the 10-foot pole and keep it away, but I'll put like a 5-foot pole and I'll keep it away, but I'll keep an eye on it. Because if they're successful with this, maybe they do have good intentions, and maybe their station P2 will cost a little bit less money and provide a little bit more stability and a little bit more longevity and a little bit more functionality, and maybe a port or 2 extra. And then maybe the P3 might hit that sweet spot of goodness kind of thing. So this is the kind of thing I want to keep an eye on. I'm interested to see if they have any success whatsoever. Because again, the RK33 processor right now in 2020, middle of May, might be the easiest ARM-based processor to program towards doing basic computing things. Maybe not high-end 4K 60 frames a second thing, but to do normal base kind of things, it might be the easiest one to program towards. And it has a good name, Station P1. I mean, how can you forget that?
You can't forget to pay.
And I'll say, so many boards I've seen out there have so much worse names with long strings of characters that are nonsensical, that make no sense. And, this is just Station P1. I can remember that.
Dude, I'm too loaded down on my computer. It's barely loading that webpage.
Well, I blame your internet connection as being abused by something else. Another
I'm
one.
just abusing the memory of my computer.
Gotcha. Well, another one, if you want to Google, it might be easier. It's called Commander Pi. And I'm really upset that I can't remember where the hell I saw this at. This was basically a very easy. Oh, this was another ETA Prime. That's what this was. This was another ETA Prime video where Commander Pi was a very easy graphical interface to deep advanced features in Raspberry Pi, including you could very easily overclock your GPU and your CPU through this GUI interface. This is the kind of tool I'm encouraging anybody who's just starting to dabble in with the Raspberry Pi and you want to push it to the limits. You need Commander Pi. Now, this does come by default baked in with the Raspbian X, I believe it was called. Raspbian X operating system, which comes with LibreOffice, Steam, Chromium, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, this Commander Pi is baked into there, and it made it very easy for me to, when I boot up, have it default to performance mode, which just works. Easy stuff. Oh, and I'm going to see if I can find the link to this one, Rich. I actually spent, there's a third, okay, now really quick. In the notes is going to be everything that we missed for the last 6 weeks. We're not going to be able to talk about everything, but everything we missed in the last six weeks, including a $31 home router, Wi-Fi 6 enabled, that is a Honor router, a Huawei router. Here's the reason why. They changed the Wi-Fi 6 specs as soon as all this Rona went crazy. They changed the specs, which means everybody who already had Wi-Fi 6 things on the shelf needed to dump it as quick as possible, because the spec just changed to where the Wi-Fi 6 will be able to carry a longer distance and be a faster speed. So if you don't need the best thing ever, Honor put out a router that's Wi-Fi 6 enabled for $31.
Does it do mesh routing?
No, but it's a great, in my opinion, IoT backend router where you don't need superb routing. You just need something that works and future proof. This will support most of the Wi-Fi 6 bands, is what I'll say. Not all of them, but most of them. So for $31, that's a steal. And
so the line 11 I want to take a look at, but unfortunately it's opening crazy slow.
The feature comparison?
Correct.
Okay, and this is coming from CNX software. And if you're unaware, CNX software is one of those services out there. I call it a service, a website that really does, I think, try its best to put out what it considers to be just rock solid, honest articles. And they always link back to sources when they're just adding to somebody else's article. And this was the o-droid C4 versus the Raspberry Pi 4 gig version. And I will say this. I do believe none of the limitations the Raspberry Pi countered were RAM-based benchmarks. It was almost the same in most of them, but in at least 3 of the benchmarks that they did, I want to say the C4 were substantially better.
See, I'm still trying to pull up the article. Well, I should have rebooted my computer before I started the show.
That's okay. It goes back to the old arguments we've had on this show since episode like 10. If you want the ecosystem and the utter flexibility, you go Raspberry Pi. If you want this one specific thing to do this one specific thing better, go with the o-droid. And that's, the bottom line. If you have to have onboard Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, well, then you have to go Raspberry Pi. If you don't want to buy a micro HDMI, well, then go o-droid. You know, these if you have to have USB-C power, well, then you have to go Raspberry Pi. You know.
So one of the things, and as we're talking about what to buy, and it kind of shot through my mind a couple of times, I hate to throw a product line under the bus wholeheartedly, but I see no reason to buy any Orange Pi anything anymore.
Well, I mean, if you want to put a water sensor in your ex-wife's house that's going to sooner or later catch fire, it might be perfect.
Ouch. Yeah, because I was buying the Orange Pi Zeros back before, because it was cheaper to buy an Orange Pi Zero than it was to buy a Pi Zero and get it set up for Wi-Fi. So that was my use case for the Orange Pi Zero. But now that the Pi Zero Ws are $5, it makes no sense to have an Orange Pi Zero.
And the Raspberry Pi Zeros are finally becoming more available. I'm not going to say they're ubiquitous. You can go in and pick 5 of them up, but they were definitely becoming more available. And I will admit I spent some money, Rich. Of course, me being me, it wasn't a lot of money. Line 44 in the notes, I went and I pre-ordered this. It's, I think, pronounced Lily Go TT Go T-Watch 2020. Is a nicer looking Arduino ESP32 watch. I'm not a smartwatch guy. I don't want to spend $300 on a watch because I'm going to break it. Okay. But this is a programmable ESP32 based watch that literally was like $30.
I've seen that and I've thought about it. I do have the Gear S3, is it Frontier or whatever? And I got it for $200, and I am notoriously hard on watches, and I have not broken this thing yet. In fact, it still looks, I mean, there's some scuffs on it, but it looks pretty good still. I'm impressed.
Gotcha. I'm sure the specs on the Samsung would blow this thing away in every shape, way, or form. It has a dual core wireless processor with 520K of SRAM, 8 meg of system memory, 16 meg of storage, a 1.54 inch LCD capacitive touchscreen display, which is probably its best feature. I'll say that. And has a Class D amplifier for audio and a buzzer. It does have 802.11 BGN Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 5.1, which is another good one. It has a 3-axis accelerometer with built-in step counting algorithm, activity recognition, tracking, advanced gesture recognition, power button, programmable via a micro USB port. So the long and the short of it is, I want to see if I can do some low-grade hacking in Python or Lua or something else on this watch, just to have it do something in air quotes fun. On Banggood right now it's $30. I want to say maybe $38 when it was all said and done. They have the watch, which is wearable, then they have the clock, which is just a skosh, a touch bigger, which actually might make for a great like end table clock. It could, I don't know, but for the price, these are the kind of things that I have a really hard time not jumping on.
Oh yeah, I definitely gave that a good look over. I'll tell you one of the reasons why I didn't jump on that recently is because I ordered a couple of things from AliExpress, and I think it took like 10 weeks to get here. I'm still waiting for a couple of items.
Yeah, the one thing that I learned from the guy who has like seen the ships over there is the people you're buying from ship nothing. They ship nothing.
Correct.
Everything is subbed out and subbed out and subbed out. There's 3 lots of places where they can dump things. The 3 lots are, there's like the 2 to 3 week, there's the 6 to 8 week, and then there's the 10 to 20 week containers. And they have to pay money in order to allow them to put stuff in the container. So it's a question of, did you pay enough? And are they, passing the money down enough, or are they keeping it for themselves kind of thing? Because I've had things like literally the Pinebook Pro, from the time I got a shipping notice to the time it was at my front door, I want to say was just under 10 days, which blew
That's
me away.
nuts.
That's straight from Hong Kong. And then I've had times where I buy something, it's literally 12 weeks later, it shows up at my door, and I forgot about it.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I had that. They said AliExpress thing. We're not talking big dollars. We're talking like $16. They're like, oh no, it said it was delivered. I'm like, yeah, I never got it because I was like, I ordered some ESP32 cams. I figured I'd get like 3 of them or something like that, and never saw them. I had disputed on the credit card.
Yeah. Well, another link in the note I'm going to put there just because I thought it was cool was a guy who said, like, here is my thoughts after running the Pinebook Pro for 90 days. And the reason I know I've been running it for 90 days is I haven't turned it off in 90 days, and the uptime shows it's been running for 90 days. It depends what operating system you're using. It depends if you have it installed on the eMMC, an NVMe, or an SD. It also depends on what you're doing in the operating system, because on almost any of them, I can make it crawl to a slow by just doing what I do normally, which is break things. Okay. If I handle it like, I don't want to say a child, you know what I mean? If I take my time with it, I don't smack it around. I don't shake it, but I, handle it nice, and I treat it nice. It is unbelievably rock solid. And if I show it a touch of patience, I'm rewarded tenfold in return. So if you buy the Pinebook Pro and expect it to equate to a $300 or $600 Windows laptop, you're going to be really upset. I run it with realistic expectations, and I am silly happy at the battery life, the performance, and the stability that I'm still getting out of it. And I've even loaded, ready for this, Rich? I've loaded a 3D printing slicer on this thing.
Serious?
The Prusa slicer. And here's the kicker. One thing that was proved to me back in the Moto X days of phones was hardware is not the end all be all. It depends how software is optimized for the hardware. I tell you right now, Rich, I have a 16 gig of RAM i7 8th generation. Okay, it's not the newest thing, it's 8th generation. i7 with an SSD in it. I slice things on the Pinebook Pro, and it's virtually as fast. It's hard to tell which one's faster.
Oh, that's nuts. That's crazy nuts.
Which doesn't make any sense to me. I thought I was seeing things. I thought somebody slipped me some hallucinogenics, because this makes no sense. So I did it like literally side by side, and it was like, where on my desktop, on my laptop i7, it would take 7 seconds to slice. On the Pinebook Pro, it was 9. It was unbelievably close. And these were not super simple things to slice either. So I was really happy with that. The the Cura slicer definitely was not performing as well. But the Prusa slicer ran, I don't want to say like butter, but damn good.
So there's an ARM-based Prusa slicer?
And yes, I didn't know. I
thought Prusa was just like a flavor of Cura. Am I wrong, or is it a flavor of another slicer? Or is it Slicer, SLIC3R?
Yes, it's a version of that. But if I open up the Manjaro package manager on my Pinebook Pro, it has both of them listed, and they're both installable. Now, I will say, I do have to nuke and pave my Pinebook Pro. I haven't had time to do it in now 2 weeks. I noticed I'm not getting updates when I tried to do a Pacman command at the command line, which is like the apt-get version in Manjaro. I noticed something is broken. And the 2 people I know who know more about Arch than me told me, it might be easier to just back up your configurations and reinstall.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm ready to do that on my Mac, and the only thing that's holding me up is I want to create a VM of it before I nuke and pave. It's been too long that it hasn't had a nuke and pave.
And I'm a firm believer, once in a while you need to do that. That's why this desktop over here, that's my streaming rig. I'm almost begging to nuke and pave it because it's literally been like this for like 6 years.
Yeah, I'm sure I got tons of crap that I absolutely don't use that totally legacied out, and it's probably a hardship that it's still there.
Right. Now, going back a little bit, the ETA Prime giveaway also included a couple like handheld arcade emulation based systems, which I will say he's a big fan of. I like the idea of a lot of these emulation solutions we're getting on mini computers. Two things to mention really quick. o-droid Go Advanced just had a like silent background update, and now they're going to ship them where they're going to have 4 LR buttons on it with a 3.5-inch color display running an RK3326 processor. This might be the best portable handheld gaming emulator you can get bang for the buck. It's less than $100. I want to say it's $70. You get 1 analog stick, directional pad, 4 face buttons, 4 shoulder buttons, USB-C for power, and you get like 6 programmable buttons on the front, which can do stuff like load state, go back to the main menu kind of thing. And it's o-droid without, sounding dumb. It's just solid hardware. And I know Rich is not a fan of gaming stuff because we all have our issues and our things that we have to bear. But the other thing was, and this is because I didn't know where else to put this in any other content I do. But Roku is technically a mini computer.
Okay. Yep.
If you take a look, line 68 in the notes, Roku is making free ad-supported TV channels. And I wanted to talk about this somewhere because the one caveat that people say that Roku don't do is local live sports broadcast. And they're right. Okay. Roku, you can do Netflix, you can do Hulu, you can do Disney Plus, you can do Crackle, you can do YouTube, you can do all kinds of stuff. But if there's local live support channels that they just do not do, what if Roku's big move is literally coming out with their own custom local-based channel-driven content? To where you don't need your local channel 2, your local channel 11, your local channel 13 or 5. You actually have your local, in air quotes, Roku channel.
Well, isn't Plex doing that? Plex has a lot of local stuff also.
They're starting to try it. I don't know if they're going to be successful with it, but they're definitely trying it.
But I hate to say it, for the most part, when I look at Plex, I'm looking at for something I pulled down. I'm not looking for them to show. It's just not how I've been trained to use it, and I know it's there, but I don't go to it.
Well, and I hate to say it, I've said that a lot to the show. Maybe we're not the targets for such content. We're the old graybeards. They want to attract the new people. The one thing that I did learn with Windows 8 was they don't care about current user. No company cares about current users. All companies only want to report to their shareholders and to the stock market. We grew by X amount last quarter, and we have a expected growth in the next quarter. All they care about is the new subscribers, the new numbers, getting the new people to say, okay, well, now you got me, I'll join. I think Plex, honestly, their days are numbered. We already have 2 people in Congress who were asked by the powers that be in Hollywood, you need to ask Plex what they're doing to protect us copyright holders. So I think the days of Plex are numbered. Roku, on the other hand, any piracy you get on Roku, you tried to get. You went out of your way to get. Where on Plex, it seems like almost a given. A certain amount of content you're going to consume on Plex is copied DVDs or Blu-ray disc. So,
one of the things that I like about Roku, and Roku, for the most part, it's kind of changing a little, but Roku is agnostic. And so with Roku, you can get YouTube. With Roku, you can get Amazon Prime. With Roku, so Roku basically plays in it's like the best combination of Amazon Fire Stick and Google whatever Chromecast, and you get both because if you get Fire Stick, you have to sideload YouTube on it or YouTube TV or any of those things. Where with the Roku, you get the best of both worlds. Is this a Miley Cyrus thing? So, oh, you don't have any daughters.
No. And I'm really happy about that too.
Okay, so so that's why my preferred device and preferred device du jour, let me say, because that can change over time, is the Roku. That's if people ask me what to get, go get a Roku.
Yep, the wife just got a Roku Ultra with the remote with the plug in it where you could plug headphones in. Or because of the Ultra, you can load the app up on your phone and have the audio pipe through to your phone. I watch nearly nothing. I listen to all my content kind of thing. So I'm never going to touch the Roku. Plex, I will admit, every couple weeks, I just log in and I log into friend servers just to see what's new. And then once in a while, I find something quite literally, Rich, between me and you. All in the Family season 1.
Oh, jeez.
Soap season 1 was another one that I had to watch.
Send me the link, man, or just tell me where it is.
Cosmo, season 1, Connections season 1 with James Burke kind of thing, and it's just okay. I'm watching that. One of the ones that caught me off guard was I had to get a copy of it. Was Private Eyes, a book. It was a movie with Tim Conway and Don Knotts from 1979. It was in the time period where humor and timing was transitioning, and they were focused on what used to be interesting movies. I want to say very interesting movie. 2 unique comedy styles from absolute professionals who just were out of their league. They were out of their time. But I digress. Oh, so is there anything else in the notes you absolutely must talk about? Because I have one more I was going to bring up.
Go for it.
I will speak very ill about anything I want, and I don't care. Take it. Because here's the whole thing. 99% of the time I talk ill about something, it's because I know it can do better. I know it should do better. I know it can do better, and I don't understand why the hell it's not doing better. Pi-hole is one of those things. It never did as good of a job as I expected it should have. Okay. One of the things was I really didn't like their web interface, to be honest. So what I found was Flutter hole line 58 in the notes. Flutter hole for Pi-hole, and I have to say that really slow, which is something you can download from the Google Play Store. And what it is, it's a dedicated app you can install on your phone. And then when you're connected to your local network, unless you're crazy and you port forward it publicly, when you're on your local network, it allows you for easy administration of your Pi-hole. And to be honest, some of the screens I saw when I logged in were screens I don't remember seeing when I log into the admin interface. It seemed a touch better than the standard admin interface is what I'm going to say that I saw on my Pi-hole.
Okay, the Nextcloud deck, I'm just clicking on this. What is this? So that's line 23.
Yeah, Nextcloud deck, I believe, is basically like rebranded Nextcloud. where it was like Nextcloud and the Nextcloud Hub. Nextcloud Deck seemed like a activity timeline project management solution. That's what I'm trying to think of. This integrates project management, team focused task deliverables in your Nextcloud. So we're hypothetically, we could say we're a team. Rich, I need you to research what's the best calendaring solution. I'm going to take a look at our project and see what's our best communication platform. And I'm going to ask Brian at the same time to just schedule and organize a newsletter kind of thing. And then we could use Nextcloud Deck to be our collaboration project management platform.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just curious. I'm, big fan of the Nextcloud, and I was just curious what they're up to.
Yeah, and it's especially, I'll say this, Android focused, because I will say it like this: whenever I tried to do to-dos, whenever I tried to do task management, whenever I tried to do just notes of like things to keep track of, if I didn't have it immediately available in my pocket, I was not keeping track of anything. So it has to have Android application support, in my opinion, or else no one's going to use it.
Gotcha.
And yeah, I will say I'll take this opportunity to say it's, to me, painfully obvious how Nextcloud is completely annihilating and destroying OwnCloud in its dust. Kind of like how LibreOffice turned OpenOffice into a has-been, an afterthought. Like it never even existed. OwnCloud, as of right now in 2020, might as well not even exist, because no one is getting the attention, no one is getting the love, no one is getting the community, no one's getting the support, no one's getting the publicity like Nextcloud is getting. And I'm all in favor of it, because I do believe their core is more open focused and community focused than the other ones are, is what I'll say.
Yep. Yeah, I'm, like I said, big fan of Nextcloud.
Okay, last thing I'm going to put in here, line 29 in the notes. And this is the kind of thing I love, because we have these enterprise grade, in air quote, solutions out there like Wattbox, WATTBOX. Solutions that range from like $60 to like $3,000. When you're looking at it, being a nerd who actually knows Doctor Who and actually understands what a capacitor is, and you're looking at it thinking, how the hell does this thing cost this much? But it does. Okay. You can build with $3 in parts. This is on Lil Putin. Build a automatic router reboot thing for $3 worth of components. Basically, it's just $3 of components that does a constant ping using ESP8266 ESP01 relay board. And if the ping goes out, it just reboots the router. Simple, yet effective as hell, and literally costs about $3 in hardware.
Dude, I want that for my cable modem.
I want that for a lot of stuff, like my sanity. If my sanity stops replying, just, have me reboot.
I think I'm going to have to look on eBay for the parts.
Yeah, and it points to a domain I never heard of, whatimade.today, which I will just say is an interesting domain filled with all kinds of hackery kinds of things going on, is what I'll say. It's a different kind of website, is the best way I'll put it. All right, Rich, what is the best, easiest, fastest, simplest way if people want to chat with you?
FlyingRich.com always gets me. So there's a contact me there. You see pretty much most of my social media. It should be going through an upgrade soon, so it'll look less awful. And we'll have that to look forward to.
Very cool, very cool. I honestly think we actually had at least one email, and we had at least one new Patreon person that I completely slipped up on. I'm sorry. I'll do my best to bring it up. I will say it does looks like We'll catch up to that. I will say the sad and the bad part is, Rich. I was told by multiple people that the specific surgery that my orthopedist and orthopedist surgeon want me to have, they both said I could have up to 6 months of recovery time. So,
Oh, jeez.
I'm not sure how good I'm going to be with doing shows for a little bit of time, but I'll definitely try my best.
Oh, well. Keep me up to date on that.
Absolutely. If you guys want to contact us, easy minipc@podnutz.com. If you would like to be a Patreon supporter, that is also equally as easy. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/the-mini-pc show. Links in the notes. Again, shoot us an email, or you can shoot us a voicemail at 707-6-PODNUT. We always go live, and we always try to share the link that we're going live at least 10 minutes early on Twitter, Facebook, Discord. And I know there's at least one or two other places, but I cannot remember them. Again, just click the links on the notes, or you can just go to podnutz.com, click on shows, click on Mini PC Show, any of the episodes, and you'll see all the links. I definitely want to thank Fizz for coming out, Gregory for coming out, Red for coming out this evening. And Rich, it's really good to talk to you. And I promise the phone number's coming to you any day now.
And yeah, guys, sorry I had to turn off my YouTube because it was sucking too much of my bandwidth because I had too many apps running. But yeah, Red, miss you. Hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. And I thank everyone again. And never forget, if you want to talk about big talk, little machines, the Mini PC Show is definitely the place to do it. Thank you, everybody.